One of the pastors here at Mercy Culture and the founder of AXL. The vision of AXL is to equip and empower sons and daughters to advance the kingdom of heaven through their creative expression. So if you're here tonight, it's probably because you're creative of some type, or you really like creatives, or you came because you don't know why you're here. One of those things is probably true. But I'm glad you guys came tonight. Raise your hand if this is your first time. Look at all these people. Is this a whole church community right here? There's so many hands in the same spot. Who are you guys from? Oh, it's the squad. Okay. Okay, welcome from Spokane. Shout out other churches that are in the room. Come on, don't be shy. Open Door, the house. What'd you say? Lifestyle. Huh? What'd you say? Are you guys whispering? Shout out your churches. Where you guys? What churches are in the room? What else? Crossstone? Milestone. Okay, who else? There was something that happened right here. Calvary. Okay, anybody else? Hiding? No? Okay. Well, shout out to every church that's here tonight. Jessica Dalton, good to see your face. Shout out to all the amazing churches. One of my favorite things about AXL is that there's people represented from all over the DFW region and apparently Washington State, and it's beautiful. Sometimes we have these moments where there's an opportunity to gather people and we kind of get stuck at our various churches and never get to come together as one, so it's a beautiful thing. Thank you guys for coming out tonight. Raise your hand if you're, or make some noise if you're an SLS student and you came. Okay. All the SLS students, I love you guys. That's the spiritual leadership school here at Mercy Culture. A bunch of people from all over America came in to be equipped, and it's a beautiful thing. I wanted to say thank you guys so much for your support and prayer with Humpty Dumpty last month. Thank you guys so much. That was so fun. Where's Angela? Heaven's after me. She's in the back. There she is, making an appearance right there. Love you, Angela. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Angela and I released a song last month, and this community, we shared the music video here before we shared it publicly, and then you guys just prayed for us and celebrated with us, and that's one of the beautiful things about being a part of a community, is that we get to share moments like that together. So thank you guys for being a part of that. We'll be dropping more music soon in the next week, so keep your eyes open. Oh, it's gonna get crazy. Okay, so tonight, you guys are funny. Tonight, what we wanted to do is share more of the heart and vision behind AXL with you guys. Did somebody just scream something? Oh, it's a child. Yes, is that Jovi? Not Jovi, that's not Jovi. I don't know whose child that is. Hello, we're happy you're here. Scream again. Wanted to share the heart behind AXL with you guys. I know it's been a while since I've actually shared the vision, the big picture vision, how AXL came about with this community. And there's a lot of you that have joined, came, been a part of this community and have never even heard that. So you know that it's about creatives, but maybe you don't know where we're going and why we're gathering in this way consistently. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. Is that cool? You guys okay? Is that cool? Okay, that's what we're gonna do tonight. Is my hair doing crazy things? I got a lock that we call Lazarus that gets really intense, a little rebellious. So you guys let me know when Lazarus comes up. Tell me, love me well. Okay, so AXL Creative Co. This story really starts November 8th, 2013. I was sitting in a little apartment in Grove City, Pennsylvania. It's about an hour north of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You know Grove City? Aw, okay, I got it. I love that. Nobody knows Grove City. So Grove City is a little bitty town, and I lived there for a little while. And I was in my apartment up in Grove City, and I was spending time with the Lord, and I heard the Lord whisper the words, "It's like an arts label." And it was one of those moments where he said something to me that I wasn't asking him about. You ever had the Lord say things to you and you're like, I don't know, what are we talking about? You know, it was kind of one of those moments where I wasn't praying, asking him about anything. This phrase just came up in my spirit. And so I wrote it down and went into a meeting with my pastor at the time. His name is Brad McCoy. He's amazing. And I went and met with Brad, and we were talking about a bunch of other things, and he stops me in the middle of the meeting, and he says, Jasmine, I just have to tell you this. The Lord spoke to me about you. He told me that he was going to give you an apostolic blueprint for a creatives movement in the earth. And I feel like he's going to give it to you soon. And he said, it's going to be like an arts label. And I was like, interesting. I think something's happening right now. And so kind of he prayed with me and went on from that moment and didn't really know what to do other than just keep walking and spend time with the Lord, doing my day-to-day. And so I was in the midst of preparing to record my first full-length studio album. And so I went and was at the studio. Some friends of mine, we all stayed with the producer and his family in Cincinnati, Ohio. And so we were there. I was in the room that we were staying in, and that morning I woke up to spend time with the Lord. And while I was spending time with the Lord, I had this encounter with God where I literally saw in neon blue ink a blueprint drawn on the wall. And I don't have encounters like that every day. I don't know if you guys have encounters like that every day. I don't, so I was tripping. Took out my journal and started drawing what I was seeing. And just drew this vision, this thing that the Lord showed me. And it was just a series of encounters that happened where the Lord began to speak to me about culture and about creatives and about what he wanted to do in the earth. And I wrote it all down. But I didn't know what to do with it. It was one of those moments where God shows you something and you're like, I don't even know any of these people, don't have anything to make this happen. There's nothing I can do with my own hands and my own ability to make what you showed me just happen. And so I put it on a shelf and I just said, Lord, I'm just gonna submit this to you. I'm gonna keep praying into it. And then I shared it with some mentors of mine and intercessors that were in my life. And I invited them to begin to pray with me into it. And I said, I know it's not for this moment, but will you guys carry this with me in the spirit? And so they prayed with me and we kind of just kept it moving. I'm praying, they're praying, but it wasn't necessarily the time for it. Right after that encounter, I finished the album. Then I went on tour. It's a long story, but we did this tour. The Lord gave us a strategy on a tour to do that turned the world's way of touring on its head. And so we went from Philly to LA and hit 10 cities in between and stayed in every city from a week to 2 weeks. Which when you're touring as an artist, you don't stay in cities for a week to 2 weeks because you don't make money like that. You lose money when you stay in cities for that long. So that's not a normal thing to do. But that was what the Lord showed us to do. It was an amazing tour. But as we were going on the tour, the Lord told me, he said, this tour is going to be a foundational piece for the blueprint that I gave you. And so I was just kind of taking note and paying attention to what was happening. There was 10 artists on this tour, and every day during the day, we would teach and equip and talk about what it meant to be kingdom artists, advancing the kingdom in the dark places. And then at night, we would actually go to dark places and bring the kingdom. So I would sing a song. Rachel Ladabue, for those of you who know her, she was in that video just now. She was the visual artist on that tour. So I'd be singing, Rachel would be painting, and then there's a couple people that would be dancing. And we'd be like in a bar just having a whole worship service, but not singing worship songs, singing kingdom songs like Humpty Dumpty or different things like that. And the presence of God would come into the room and people would encounter the Lord. Moments where there's a story, one of my favorite stories where Rachel, we would ask the Lord before we would do these shows for him to speak to us and show us what he wanted to do in the room. And sometimes he would give us visions or pictures of people who were going to be in the room and speak to us about them before we would show up. And so this one time we were praying, asking the Lord to show us who we wanted to meet in the room. And God showed Rachel a picture of a woman who was going to be in the room, painted her face, and then the woman showed up. Y'all chill about that? Y'all seen that before? I've never seen that before until that moment. Can you imagine not being a follower of Jesus, you just come into a concert to hang out, and you walk in with your homies, chilling, and then you look up on the canvas, and your face is there. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's crazy. And then you walk up to the artist, and you're like, that's my face. I don't even know what you say in a moment like that. But like the conversation that gets to happen after a moment like that. You know that's my face? Yes, I know that's your face. How do you know that's my face? Because Jesus showed me your face. How does Jesus know my face? Because Jesus knows you. He loves you. Did you know that? These moments where people get to meet Jesus because of us being in tune with the Holy Spirit and being willing to step out in faith as creatives in dark places. And so we got to see a bunch of moments like that happen out in these venues while we were on this tour. When we got to LA on the tour, we did a show, and we were leaving the show, and God was just doing beautiful things. When we left the show, walking down the sidewalk, about to go get something to eat, and I was a little bit ahead of the group, looking up the restaurant, my GPS, and literally, it was like my entire body got arrested, like cold chills on my whole body, and my body was paralyzed. And I heard a voice say, "If you keep doing this, I will kill you." And I couldn't move. My team came around me, and they didn't know what was going on, so they just started praying in the Spirit and praying for me, and eventually it lifted. But I had a demonic encounter where the enemy literally told me, "If you keep doing this, I will kill you." The good news about that is if the enemy says something like that to you, it lets you know you're probably on the right track. You're probably doing the right thing, if the enemy is threatening to kill you. And so it was kind of one of those moments where once I got unfroze and unencountered and was really in my, it was one of those moments of oh, those were fighting words. This is letting me know the Lord is in this, and we're supposed to continue in this way. And so we continued the tour and finished it, but it was one of those moments, like I said, for me of this is way bigger than me. And God told me that this was a foundational piece for the blueprint that he showed me. So there's something to this tour, there's something to these creatives being equipped during the day, and then this experiential learning in the evening. There's something to what's happening right now. And so we finished the tour, and long story short, I carried this vision just in my heart for about 5 years. And I got an opportunity to work for a church in Philadelphia for about 3 of those years, and I thought that was going to be the place where we were going to get to see that vision come to place. And right before I moved there, they invited me to come in and work there to take over a performing arts school. And so I'm like, cool, I'm going to take over a performing arts school. Surely this is where the vision will happen. And I was literally getting ready to go there to do that, and I heard the Holy Spirit say, "It's not for here." My assignment was just to be a midwife for what God was doing in that house. And so moved to Philadelphia, and it was a very amazing creative church. And so I literally just got to midwife a community that was already kind of in their heart. But that community also gave more insight and strategy for what God wanted to do with this blueprint that he showed. And that community was called Artisans. It's still going on right now. It's in Philly, incredible people. But it wasn't time yet for the blueprint that the Lord showed me. Along the way, God began I kept seeing the letters A, or it was like a triangle, and then XL over and over again. Kept seeing triangle XL, triangle XL. And I'm like, Lord, what is this thing that I keep saying? And then I would hear the word axle over and over again. I said, Lord, what is this? And he said, this is the name of the blueprint that I showed you. I'm like, cool, what does it mean? Crickets. Nothing. I'm like, well, that's not helpful. I need to know what it means if I'm going to tell people about the name of the thing, because they're going to ask me what it means, and I don't know the name, And so he told me nothing. And but to confirm it, I was at this worship night, and this little girl came up to me. She handed me a prophetic drawing. And on her drawing, it was me on an acoustic guitar, a band behind me, and on the kick drum for the drum set had triangle XL on it. And I looked at her and I said, what was that? What'd you put that on there for? And, little kids, she was just like, I don't know, just like, but it was like the Lord in a very precious way, just confirming like, yes, it's for me. Just hold on, I'm gonna tell you, but yes, this is me. I'm speaking to you. And so I knew that the name was AXL, but I didn't know why. And 5 years go by, I ended up moving here to Fort Worth. And long story short, there's a lot of details here, but when I moved here, I knew that this was the place where the Lord wanted to birth the vision. There's a series of events that happened. One of the things that happened, one of the many things that happened was I was at this, my friend Evelyn and I, we went to this conference in Dallas, kind of last minute. Some friends invited us to go to this conference, and I was like, cool, we'll just check it out, We get there, and the worship's amazing, and I'm in the very back of the room. There's literally stacks of chairs in the back of the room, and I'm literally in the back, under the chairs, on my face, worshiping the Lord. Like, I'm like black, and I'm in the shadows, under the chairs. Like, I'm like double camouflage, you know what I'm saying? Like nobody should see me, and that was the plan. And the guy who was speaking is a prophetic voice in our nation, and he's up there in the front ministering, and all of a sudden he goes, lady in the back under the chairs, come up here, the Lord has a word for you. I'm like, I'm literally hidden, and so I go up to the front, and he begins to prophesy, and he says, God's going to birth a movement of creatives and worshipers through your life, and there's going to be this whole movement. And he goes on and he says, the Lord reserved it for this season because it had to be birthed under a David, and now you're under a David. And then he goes on to start. He says the end of the word was he says, what are the names of the Ninja Turtles? Come on, who knows it? Michelangelo, Leonardo, and who? Raphael. And so he says the names of the 3 Ninja Turtles, and he was like, I don't know what this means. Just the Lord saying something about the Ninja Turtles, I don't know, random, And I'm like, cool, thanks, sir, and I leave. And whenever I get prophetic words like that, I submit them to the mentors in my life, and the intercessors and the mentors. That's a free nugget. Do that in your life. I submitted to the mentors in my life, and one of my mentors, when she heard the word, I literally was like, he would say something weird about Ninja Turtles. I don't know what this means. You know what this means? And she started laughing, and she says, those are names of artists, and they're underground, the Ninja Turtles. And she was like, it's talking about an underground movement of creatives. Like, that's what it's about. I was just like, oh my gosh. And so just all these moments of God confirming and showing like, okay, there's something that he's giving birth to. It's an apostolic blueprint. There's a movement, there's creatives, and that it's gonna happen, it's being birthed here. And that it was gonna be birthed under a David, which to me is, my pastor is a David, and he's amazing. And I knew that it meant that the vision was safe to be birthed out of this house. And so I begin to bring, just getting to a place where I'm asking the Lord to really show me the fullness of what he's doing. Lord, show me the full picture of what you're doing, how to move forward. I'm praying into it. And I had this moment where I was watching one of those big stadium movement worship moments. I think it was like The Send or something like that, one of those events. And I was watching it in my living room, and I had this moment where I felt myself get provoked. This like righteous indignation come up in me, because there was a gathering of worship and prayer, and it was amazing. But all of a sudden there was this thing that came up in me where I was reminded of a moment where the Lord spoke to me when I was in high school. And the Lord spoke to me when I was in high school one time and said, there's another Woodstock coming. And I held it in my heart for all those years that there was another Woodstock coming. Woodstock is a music festival that happened in the 60s, and where it was massive, but it was drugs and sex and just crazy, but the Lord was saying that there's a Woodstock coming, but it's going to be him. And so I literally got all these posters from Woodstock and hung them on my wall, and people thought I was crazy because it's like this crazy stuff on those posters, but it was me contending for that prophetic word and believing that that's what God was saying. And so I had this moment, I'm looking at this stadium worship moment, worship and prayer, thousands of people, and I'm provoked. There's this righteous indignation. The Lord reminds me of that word, and all of a sudden comes up to me, that's not Woodstock. It's a gathering of Christians worshiping and praying. Woodstock are the unbelievers, the ones that don't know Jesus, gathered in one place. And the Lord began to just this provoking of there's another gathering, there's another movement that he's going to do in the earth where the people who don't know Jesus will come together and they're going to radically encounter the Holy Spirit. And it will be in the space of the arts and entertainment industry. And it will be through the creatives, through the visual artists, through the musicians, through the fashion designers, through the cooks, through the insert the blank, there is something coming that will be like Woodstock, but it will be unto the glory of the Lord. And the Lord reminded me of it while I'm watching this video of The Send. And I love The Send. I have nothing against The Send, the call. I cut my teeth on that. That's how I encountered the Lord growing up. But he was showing me there's something else that he's also going to do in the earth. And so I'm provoked, having this moment, and I'm like, well, Lord, and he reminds me of the blueprint in that moment. And I'm like, okay. And then he says, I'm like, well, is this connected? And he's like, yes. He's like, I already told you, this is the blueprint. This is part of it. And I said, well, what's it called? He said, I already told you, it's AXL. I said, well, what does it mean? Tell me what it means, help me understand. And he took me to 1 Chronicles. If you want to look it up, I'm not going to read all the way through it right now, but 1 Chronicles 13, 1 through 14, and 1 Chronicles 15, 1 through 15. There's this passage where they're carrying the Ark of the Covenant to the city of David, and they were carrying it in the way that the Philistines carried it. So the Philistines carried the Ark of the Covenant using an oxen and a cart. And it was more convenient, it was easier, probably faster in some ways, but that's the way they were carrying it. And so when David got the ark back, they were continuing to carry it the way that the Philistines carried it. And what happened is the oxen stumbled, the ark shook, and Uzzah, this guy, put his hand on the ark, and he got struck dead in the moment. He dies. David gets a little salty at the Lord, and he goes and he starts having this temper tantrum with the Lord. And he's going off, what the heck happened? He didn't say that. That's not in the Bible. It's just my interpretation. And he's like, what's going on? What's happening? And essentially what happens is the Lord speaks to him. He goes back to them and he says, from now on, we have to carry it the way that God intended it for us to carry it. We have to carry it the way that he told us to carry it, and the Levites have to carry it. And so then they began to carry it the way they carried it. The way that God had told them to carry it was, can I get just 4 people randomly to run up here right now? 4 people, 4 guys. There it is, 1, 2, okay, we got the runner. Okay, my guy. Okay, can all 3 of you come up? You're not gonna jump like that, Pastor West? I appreciate your passion. Can you, Pastor Les, can you stand right here? You guys stand right there. This is great. And all of you face me. So essentially, the way that it was set up, the way that they were supposed to carry it, was there were 4 people like this, and then the Ark of the Covenant was sat right here in between them. But the Ark had poles on both sides that went from shoulder to shoulder and shoulder to shoulder. So if you can imagine, it's like a car, right? If you see the people almost like the tires, and the Ark of the Covenant in itself hanging out right here with the poles. And so on a car and really anything where there's this type of setup, this pole right here that's carrying the presence of God, allowing them to carry the presence of God on their shoulders, those poles would be considered an axle. And what the Lord began to show me is that the blueprint that he gave is not the presence, and it's not the people. The blueprint is the thing, the network, the community that will make it possible for sons and daughters who are creatives to carry the presence of God to the ends of the earth. You guys are good, thank you. That's what an AXL is. And so he took me to that passage and he broke it down and showed it to me. And I realized that he was giving us a blueprint. You know, we've done a disservice, and I want to be careful with how I say this, but we've done a disservice to creatives in the body of Christ because we've really taught creatives that everything that they do has to make sense in the Sunday morning thing. And it's limiting. We've put God in his creative nature in a box. All of the things that we do on a Sunday morning are beautiful. All over America, there's incredible worship that happens. All over the world, there is incredible worship that happens in the corporate context. I'm a part of that. I love that. I think it is necessary. It is necessary. But when we don't acknowledge that there are creative gifts that are also necessary, and then assign heaven's value to them in a way to where we're creating spaces for creatives to be equipped to do what they feel called to do in a healthy way in the earth. Like we have to do that. It's not fair to have only the conversation of corporate worship when there are creatives in the entire body of Christ. And so it can't be that we just have worship schools in the nation and we just train people on how to sing spontaneous prophetic songs and think we've done our service for creatives in the nation. And then all the other creatives, you got to figure it out and go to a secular school and just somehow figure out how to incorporate the Holy Spirit into what you're doing. And then if you don't figure it out and you go into the industry and get eaten up by the principalities in that space, now we're mad at you. Now we're judging the people who are in the industry because we didn't actually create a means to equip them in the body of Christ. You have these Katy Perrys and Justin Biebers and Justin Timberlake. I mean, fill in the blank. All these incredible people that have a gift from the Lord that started in the church. They were worship leaders first. And we didn't know how to steward a gift on their life. Because when Justin Timberlake was singing, people was probably distracted because the man can sing. And he's doing runs all over the nation vocally and he's just talented. You know, he has a gift to captivate people. And I've just seen people even be accused of performing on stages. And we say, oh, you just have a performance problem. Like, I wish you just worship, you got a performance problem. Well, maybe they're actually anointed for that. And we say, no, you're not a worship leader. You got identity problems. You can't. And it's like, maybe they're anointed to perform and they're supposed to be equipped to be on MTV, the VMAs. And they're supposed to bring the kingdom. And they're supposed to be a righteous seed in the industry. Maybe that's also a thing. And so the heart of this blueprint is that we have to equip the creatives in the body of Christ because not everybody's called to the corporate worship experience. And so there's kind of, it's twofold. There is the raising up creatives to go and advance the kingdom in culture. It is the reality that there's spaces that haven't been, for lack of a better way of saying it, occupied by the kingdom, by light. And so there's darkness there because we have not sat at the table. because we've taught people that you really shouldn't or can't, or made them feel less than because they're called to fashion, and they would go into the fashion industry and it's like, no, make costumes for Christmas. That's what we need you to do. Like, just stay here and make costumes. You know, like people have to occupy. Somebody is going to occupy the seat who decides what will be the next trend in the fashion world. Somebody is going to. Why not be a kingdom person that's been equipped in the presence of God? Like, someone is going to perform for the Grammys. Why not be a kingdom artist that the presence and power of God will flow through them the moment they pick up that mic? And they're singing a song that redefines what love is and what family looks like and how to process heartbreak. Why not us? Why just sing up here and let them occupy those spaces? That's one of the pillars, if you will, of what, I don't want to say pillars, I'll use that later, but it's twofold. That's one of the pieces of it. The second piece is this. There are creatives and influencers who are currently in the industry that need to be restored to their Father, that need to be restored to their Creator. And I believe that some of the same people that feel called to create are some of the same people that are called to the people in that world. But we can't go into those spaces and even just love the Nicki Minaj's of our generation if we're not equipped to. Why? Because we'll start looking like Nicki. And then before we know it, our witness is lost and we're in the world that we were called to. We're in it. We look like it. It's the reason I get so passionate. My blood pressure starts going up. I'm gonna let my blood pressure settle right now. I'm just joking. I don't have blood pressure issues. But it's twofold. It's raising up the artists to go, and then it's ministering to the artists that are there. For me, I grew up really passionate about the creatives that are already in the industry. I've always felt called to that people group. And I was like, Lord, you know, like, I'll go, send me to Lady Gaga. I want to love her. I want to sit with her. I want to tour with her and just be the love of Jesus to her, you know, like, send me into that place. But then the Lord began to show me that if we only go into those places, but we don't equip people who are going to go into those places, then we never ever solve the issue. It has to be both at the same time, right? Like, we have to go into those places and love those people and see the kingdom advance in their lives. And then we also have to prepare an army that goes into that industry that's uncompromising with fire in their eyes. Like, we have to do both at the same time. And so it's twofold. Both parties need to be equipped and empowered as sons and daughters in their identity. The Ark of the Covenant was his presence. And it was the Levites that were carrying it. The axle was the thing that made it possible for them to carry it. And I just want to say, you don't have to choose between the presence of God and your artistry. I think there's this weird mindset that it's either really intense presence of God, worship, crazy stuff up here and in this room, or I'm gonna write songs and just chill in a coffee shop, make videos that are cool, like take some dope photos. Like, you have to kind of choose one or the other, and then you'll come into the presence for the worship thing. Do you know that you can make films that literally carry the presence of God, that people can be delivered watching a movie? Do you know that people could wear a clothing piece and literally be delivered because of a piece of clothing that they wore that carries the presence of God? You're like, I don't believe you, that's dumb, that's not real. Look at Paul and his handkerchiefs. Like, it's biblical. Like, God moves through creativity, and you don't have to choose whether it's worship or artistry. Like, it's not, he's not trying to get us to figure out which one we're called to. You can be a singer-songwriter, You can be a cook, a chef, a fashion designer, a filmmaker, a photographer, and the power of God unto deliverance flow through the thing that you're doing. But if we don't know that, if we don't really know that, then we don't extend our faith into those places. We don't even begin to believe that God could do it if we never heard it. Nobody ever says it. So the actual part of what we will be doing is telling you that this is what God can do, that he can move like this, like that he wants to. There's a story of this guy, I think he was in India, and he's a Christian man, and he heard a story about a witch doctor that was making paintings and selling them to people to put curses on people's houses. And families would literally get struck with cancer because of the painting in their house. And he heard about it, this Christian man heard about it and thought to himself, if that's happening on the dark side, it literally means it's a counterfeit of something that's in God's hands. Because the enemy can't create new things. So it's a counterfeit of something that God actually intended for us to be operating in. So what he started to do is say, well, I'm gonna paint and I'm gonna ask the Lord to put healing on the paintings. And I'm gonna give them away and believe that because this painting is in somebody's house, that it's a no cancer zone. You know, like, what can God do if we will just believe? Like, you know, like one of my favorite exercises that we did with our creative community in Philly was we would get them in small groups and just have them pick out one of the person's creative expressions in the group, and then everybody come up with all the craziest things they can imagine that God could do through that. Like, what if you just sat down and just dreamt with God about all of the ways he could move through what's in your hand? Instead of just assuming that you know exactly what it looks like, and it's just, I just paint, I just take pictures. Like, what if he has dreams for your photography that you don't even think about? Like, we have to ask him to show us so that we could actually extend our faith to believe that he will do those things. And so I'm gonna break down a little bit about the actual strategy of what this looks like. Because you guys are like, that's really cool. How are you gonna do that? You know, what does that look like? And I'm gonna share with you guys some of the pillars that I saw in this blueprint. And some of what I'm gonna share with you right now is there are things that we're doing right now. Some of it we're not doing. The reason I'm sharing it with you is so that you know where this community is going. In 2022, the Lord's been speaking to me about just some shifts that we're gonna do as a community, because we're not interested. The goal of AXL is not to have as many people as possible be here. The goal is not, man, I wish we could pack out this room with a bunch of people. That would be so dope. Like, just creatives, a lot of us. Like, that's awesome. Like, that's not the point or the goal. If thousands of people, well, that's not even real because we only can see like 1,300. If 1,300 people was in this room, but nobody was equipped or empowered to advance the kingdom as a son and daughter with their creative expression, then we never did the vision that God told us to do. So there has to be an intentionality with actually equipping people and empowering people. And this is awesome. But we're going to get more intentional in 2022. And for some of you, you know, like there may be some of you in the room that's like, this is just the young adults group that I like to hang out with on Fridays. And I don't really feel called to this, but I need friends and I'm just here. That's cool. We love you. Come hang out at Rogers afterwards. We do a little after party. Come chill with us. But I'm saying that because, or some of you may be here because you heard that it was a creative community and you're trying to like network and like build a following and get like a lot more people to follow you on Instagram and make money or something. Like, I don't know your jam, why you can. But the reason we're gathering is to equip and empower sons and daughters to advance the kingdom. And what we're going to do next year is we're going to get more intentional and more intimate in the way that we do that. And so I'm gonna share some of those pieces with you, but I'm asking you, if you know people that you're like, man, like they need this, like share this vision with them and invite them into this community. We're not just like, it's not a networking club. Like there's a point to this. There's something we're really going after. And the first pillar that I'll share with you guys tonight, if you will, is local community. That is currently, we have groups. Amanda Visser and Jordan and Fallon and Tessa, and there's a bunch of amazing people in here that are leading groups that are more specific, more intimate. And so you get a chance to focus in a little bit more on things. Like we don't really get to have more intimate conversations in this setting. But like in the groups, those more intimate conversations and the more intimate equipping happens in those spaces. And so there's the groups. Right now we're doing creative nights. Some of you think that creative nights are the vision. It's like people say the creative nights is AXL. The creative night is not the vision of AXL, it's just a part of it. And it might not last forever. We may not do creative nights forever because it's not the vision. It's a part of how we're accomplishing it. But there are so many ways to accomplish what the Lord is showing us. But I want to make clear, the creative night is not AXL. It is a way that we are accomplishing the vision that God has put in our hearts. And so there's groups and creative nights. The vision is that there will be AXL communities just like this. We'll call them hubs all across America. And it's kind of already starting. There's relationships that we have with different creatives in Seattle, in Philly, in Pittsburgh, in Columbus, Ohio, all over the place that have this same vision in their heart. We have not officially launched those communities, but the heart is that we raise up communities like this in those cities, and that all of those communities are connected to the local body. We don't believe we can do the vision of AXL disconnected from the local body. Creatives, we're not, it won't work disconnected from the local body. That's my conviction. That's what I honestly believe. And so if you're like one of those people that's like, I hate the local body, this sucks, hate church, we're not your people. We love the body of Christ. We love the bride, and we are aware we cannot do it without the body of Christ. Do you know the only way that this night happens is because Mercy Culture is the local body that AXL is covered by. Like, we would be spending thousands of dollars a month trying to rent out a space, trying to rent out sound equipment, trying to do all this stuff if we did it without the local body. We would we can't do what we're called to do without the local body. And so that is a big part of who we are as a community. We will be creating spaces for creatives to gather. Part of the vision is to have property, to have creative spaces where creatives can gather together and make things together and collaborate together. Studios, video studio, photography studio, record studio, music studio. Like, we want properties where we can actually create spaces for creatives to gather and create together. One of my favorite things about the local element of our community and of the vision of this thing is us being able to support projects that we're doing in the community. And so it is the beauty of you guys supporting Humpty Dumpty last month and praying for us. But it is that when Rebecca Holtz releases her song, that we can come around Rebecca and celebrate that and support that. One of the things that's happening right now that's another picture of that is Megan Farmer is doing a Kickstarter project right now. Stand up, Megan. Yeah, give it up for Meg. So she was one of the artist spotlights a few months ago. You can sit down, I see that. She's one of the artist spotlights a few months ago, and she shared about what she's called to do. She's starting a factory. Like, it's an insane vision. I'm not gonna tell you all of it because I want you to go look it up. Go look up the Bright Factory online and look up the Kickstarter project, but she's raising $60,000 right now to go towards that vision. And like has already raised 13,000? $13,000 of that $60,000, and there's still the rest of this month left to raise the rest of that. But the heart is that we can sow into that project, and that there's an entire community that knows the vision, knows that there's a kingdom-minded person that's called to the fashion industry, and instead of going and spending our money with people that we don't know what the heck they're doing, or we know that they're doing crazy stuff, we give our money to a kingdom-minded person and support their vision. But you don't know that there's kingdom-minded people unless you're in community with them and you're doing life with them, and you get to hear the vision and you get to see them dreaming and the birthing of things that are in their heart. That's a part of what it means to be a part of a local community. And so there's that element of it. The local community that also is hubs of local communities across America. The next pillar of it is a website and an app. And some of these things will eventually be membership-based because there are resources and things that we're creating that there will be value on. And we want there to be, for example, one of the things I'm going to talk about in a second, we're going to have a network of intercessors that will be covering projects like this. One of my favorite things is that Megan has an intercessor that's a part of this community, Miss Erlene, she's not in here, that literally has been partnered with her this entire time, interceding for her, covering her in prayer through the entire project. What if every creative that was doing a project had intercessors assigned to them? If we actually believe that what we're doing is kingdom and it will impact the world and the culture, then you should expect that there may be some warfare involved if you think it's really kingdom. So why step into the ring and not be equipped with intercessors? We do that so often. We just be running into stuff. I'm going to go change the world. Pop, 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 pop. Just get jacked up. And it's well, you stepped into the ring. Let's get some intercessors, get some covering. We get up, we're I'm bleeding. Who's praying? What are you doing? What if we have a network of intercessors for every kingdom project? But we can't, the reason I'm bringing that up in the terms of even the membership, this is not now, this isn't a moment where I'm going to be so sign up today, it's $59.99. This is not one of those moments. But you have to understand, if we're going to raise up a network of intercessors to cover projects, you can't have them just covering random people, every single person that pops up, I'm doing a project. We want to cover the creatives that we know that they have been serious about being a kingdom creative, about growing in their identity, about being equipped, about those are the ones that we want to send prayer covering to. And so there has to be some way where we determine, okay, who are those people that are really serious about this, and how do we give them everything we have so that they can run and be free to do what God has called them to do. So there's a membership element of it. There will be a website and an app that's essentially a database. Database, that's how you say it. A database of AXL affiliated kingdom creatives and artists across the nation. So imagine a website or an app where you could literally look up in any city at any moment a producer, a studio, a dance studio, a dancer, a singer, a painter, fashion designer, graphic designer, where you can literally look up any of those things in any city at any moment. So if you're traveling for work or going on tour, you could pull up this app or this website and find an AXL community. So you could show up and pop up at their creative night or their group, and they could pray for you, whatever it may be. But then you could also connect with the actual creative. So you want to collaborate with somebody, you're staying somewhere for a few months, and you want to do a project with somebody. You can do a project with another kingdom-minded person that's been equipped in the same ways that you've been equipped. You don't have to wonder if they're going to be compromised, and they'll be the same real deal, pursuing righteousness, pursuing purity, going after the things of the Lord. It will be the same type of equipped kingdom artists in those places, and you can find them just like that on an app or on a website. On that website and app, there will also be resources for local creatives that teach. So there'll be links to curriculum, books, podcasts, things like that. We want to create curriculum. Well, this really goes in the next one, but we want to create curriculum for these different creative expressions. So if you're a photographer and you're like, man, I think there's more than just taking photos on Sunday I'm called to, and I don't know what that looks like. What if you could look up a whole teaching, a whole series about that on a website and go through a couple classes that train you in that. And you get to learn how to do that with the Holy Spirit and all the different ways that you could do that. Like, it's the equivalent of a worship school, but again, for creatives that are called beyond that four wall of the church setting. On that website, we'd have kingdom-minded reviews on culture. It would be a platform for AXL artists to promote shows and events and workshops. So if somebody comes into our city, they're an AXL-affiliated artist, they're kingdom, they're the real deal. Maybe we've never heard about them before, but they're promoting it on our app. It's our cue that we need to show up and support and go pray and be present with them. Like, what if you could just send out like a SOS, like, I'm coming to your city, I need all the kingdom people to show up. And we all just rolled up, and it was just fire, you know, like that'd be nuts. Like, but for that to be an easy thing to do. So that's the website or an app. The next pillar is resources and training. We want to do intensives where we call creatives together from across the nation to be poured into for a weekend. Those intensives will eventually turn into conferences. But that will be us sending out sometimes an invite just to the members of AXL and then to specific creatives that God has given us connections to or relationship with that want to be in this space. And they have a place where they can come and not be fangirled and people trying to get like pictures and autographs, because we're equipped to be with people who are influencers. And we're not infatuated with them because we've been interceding for them so they can be safe in our community. And so we'll do intensives for things like that, as well as conferences. Creative support and development is the next pillar. There's only two more. Creative support and development. I think Angela's all the way in the back, but like this phrase that Angela uses that she's actually, something that she's called to, that she carries, is that she's a dream facilitator. And she's actually gonna be one of the ones leading this pillar in our community. But like, we wanna provide creative support for the people who are a part of this community. Meaning we're going to start something like an arts label, like the Lord said. And it will be members of this community that will be able to provide creative support and provide finances and creative direction and design support, media production support. Like, what if we could call on the creatives of our community and say, hey, there's this massive project that Bosa's about to do, and this is the project that the Lord's breathing on, and as a community, we're gonna get behind her. And we literally pull together all of our creative gifts and we just serve Bosa's vision for 6 months. Like, that's nuts to be able to do that, you know? We will be collaborating with distinct business because there's kingdom business leaders that have finances that want to sow into kingdom projects. You know, there are millionaires that are just looking for vision to sow into in the kingdom. That if somebody would just have clear vision, that they're just like, I just want to give thousands of dollars. You know, like, we want to have clear projects and things to present to these kingdom-minded business leaders that we're connected to, because it's another house vision, and say, okay, partner with us in this project and let's make this thing happen because it's God's dream. He wants to birth Bosa's vision in the earth. And so as a community, we're gonna come together as an arts label together and make that vision happen. So there'll be moments where we focus on different projects and put all of our energy into it as a community. You know, we wanna see poverty eradicated from the creative community. Poverty is a gateway to perversion. I don't know if you've noticed this, but in creative communities, we have this poverty bondage. That phrase, I'm just a starving artist, oh, it irks me deeply, because it's an agreement with poverty. And God is not like, we don't have to be like poor and not able to do anything and bound in our mind with poverty because we are creatives. In fact, when we entertain poverty, it is a gateway for perversion. Like, think about the arts and entertainment industry. Think about the grind that comes with the industry because of money. Think about how many people don't do what God told them to do because they have to do what they have to do for money. Think about how amazing it would be if people could just obey the Lord and do the vision exactly the way that God said it because they have the money to do it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, there's a perversion that happens when there's poverty. And so we don't want to entertain poverty as a creative community. And so we're believing that God will even give us strategies on how to bring in finances for this community so that people can run and we can support the people who are serious about what God has called them to. Part of that is partnering with House Visions like Distinct here at Mercy Culture. And so the creative support and development, it is it's like an arts label piece, the dream facilitation. It is artist mentorship. We'll be mentoring artists, and we'll have the prayer network, intercessory support as well, which is major. The last thing is festivals and gatherings. So the idea is that all these communities, all these hubs that are across America, imagine if they're gathering like this, just like we are, monthly or whatever it is, having their groups, just like we are. And then every 2 years, we say, every one of these communities meet us in Fort Worth. Everybody come here, clarion call, send it out, everybody meet us here. And here's the vision. Everybody comes here, we do a conference together where we literally just get to worship together in with these communities. We get to hear the Lord together. We get to hear the testimonies of what God is doing in all these different cities. There's amazing teaching, we're equipping. But then at the end of that conference, the last 2 days of people's time here, or whatever it may be, we put on a massive festival in our city. And literally the creatives that have been equipped, that came from all over the nation, they're the headline. They're the ones that are selling their art in the booths and the tents. Like, they're the ones that are on the stages getting to sing. They're the ones that have been equipped. And now they're getting to release the thing that God has put inside of them with their community. But we invite the city, not our churches. We're gonna invite our churches too, because we love the local body. But we make it a city event. We promote it as a festival. Come listen to some music, come see some dope art, and then people come just to come to a dope festival, and they get blasted. Because it's just a bunch of crazy, fire-filled kingdom artists that have been doing this every month and in their groups and daily encountering the Lord. And so when they get up to sing a song about love or about a breakup or whatever it is, the power of God rushes the room and heals people. Like, can you imagine? Like, that's just crazy to think about. But that's what we're doing. That's the direction that we're going in. Imagine this room filled with hundreds of people or whatever, of creatives from all over America. We worship together, hang out, and then we go and take over a venue somewhere in the city, and we go out there. Crazy festival, crazy stuff going down. People that don't know Jesus showing up, getting blasted, getting healed. And then at the end of the festival, what we would do is we'll tell them what the gathering is. We finish it up. Well, thank you guys for coming. That's the end of the weekend. So glad you encountered God. What you felt today was the Holy Spirit. It's the Spirit of Jesus. We tell them about Jesus. Somebody gives their life to Jesus. And then we get to baptize them together that night. And then we literally take the people who got equipped from our community. We take the hopes in our community. And at the end of that event, we commission Hope to go on tour. There's a whole group of dancers and painters and intercessors and mothers and fathers that get sent with Hope on a tour across the nation. And guess where Hope gets to go? She gets to hit up all the hubs across the nation. And in every city she goes to, there's already a support system that's there that knows what we're doing. They're filled with the Spirit. They get it. And they just did it for a whole weekend together, and they're encouraged because it was just nuts. And now they get to do it with Hope when she comes to their city. One of the initial visions that the Lord gave me when he gave me the blueprint, it was the blueprint, but I told you there was a series of encounters. One of the things that happened is I saw a map of America from aerial view. And the Lord took me under the map of America, and it was underground. And there was like this large group of people, and there was like these pods in the ground, these circles. And what would happen is, one at a time, a creative person, one of these people in this group, they would stand on one of those pods, and all of the people around them would start screaming and cheering. And the more they cheered, it was like it was charging up this pod, and then the person who was standing on it got shot through the nation, and they got sent to another city. And then the Lord sent, and then they would go to another pod, and they kept doing the same thing over and over again underground. And the Lord took me above ground, and then I saw what was happening was there was like this underground, for lack of a better way of saying it, railroad that was being formed in the nation between creative communities. But they were all connected to each other, and they all became hubs of glory for creatives to gather and impact their city and culture. And guys, that's what we're doing. That's what AXL is. That's the point of why we gather every month. It's not unto having a cool moment, glad you guys came, hope you got a good gift or something, like buy something outside. Like, there's a point to this. We want to see God glorified. We want to see our nation changed. We want to see culture shifted. We want to see the celebrities and the influences of our day wrecked by the presence and the power of God. We want to position ourselves as sons and daughters to be entrusted with a dream that's on God's heart. And that's why we're going to continue to gather. That's why we're doing this. And I'm so excited about one of the things that is coming up. Is something called the Justice Run Music Festival. And the Justice Run Music Festival is a collaboration between the Justice Reform, which is one of the house visions here at Mercy Culture that goes after justice issues in the nation. I can't think of the exact vision statement, but like they're going after every justice issue, believing that God would come in and get his glory in every one of those things. And we're collaborating with them as AXL, and we're literally getting to see the beginnings of this vision happen. We're getting to do a festival in our city. And Hope is gonna be performing. I don't remember who else in the room, but there's like people from our community. Eniola from Upper Room, Zion Dance Project, Cheyenne Berry will be performing. I'll be performing. I feel like I'm forgetting people. Lauren Caldwell will be performing. Victory Boyd will be performing. You guys don't even know Victory Boyd. Potentially, maybe you do, huh? Eleazar. But there's like kingdom creatives literally be coming together to do a festival in our city. It is the budding of the vision that I just shared with you. And God's doing it right now. And we haven't even like got started yet. Like, we don't even have a website or an app yet. And God's like doing the festival right now. I'm like, okay, we're doing the festival right now. We're jumping in. Here we go. This is the first part of it. And so I want to invite you guys right now to be a part of this moment with us. It's a really exciting moment for us who've been carrying this vision, or the leadership of AXL. And we want you guys to be a part of it. So much so that next month, our Creative Night will be the Justice Run Music Festival. So instead of meeting on the third Friday of the month, we will meet on October 10th, and we're gonna do the Justice Run Music Festival together. Some of you may have things, you may be a visual artist, or things that you create tangibly, like tangible art. I don't know the right way to say it, but like we have, what's the word? There are booths. That's a hard word to say. Let's try to say it, come on. It feels awkward. It's like an awkward word. It's like moist, like, it's like a weird word. But we want you to come as a vendor. I will skip the other word. But we want you to know that like we're so invested in this community that part of what we're doing is, I think it's for 10 artists. Is that what it is, Erica? I don't know where Erica is. For 10 artists, we are paying half of the price to be a vendor. The reason it costs anything is because we're raising money to make residences for women being rescued out of sex trafficking. And so as creatives, we're literally getting to partner with justice in our nation. You know, that we will have a residence that has the most beds in the nation. I think it's 100 beds for survivors, women being rescued out of sex trafficking, to come and get healed, like spiritually, emotionally, physically, encountering the presence of God. And it's gonna be built on this property. And what we're doing as a festival is literally all the proceeds for it are going towards building the residences. Like, that's crazy that we get to be a part of that. And so we want our creatives, we want you guys to be the ones who are selling art at this event. We want you to be the ones that are there, you know, and there are other people outside of AXL that may sign up to sell art, to sell things, but we want you guys to be the ones that are there. And again, for 10 of you, we're gonna pay for half of the price for you to be a vendor because we want you to be a part of it. That's all the information. I'm not gonna read all of it, but go to justicerun.com/AXL for more information on that. Erica, raise your hand. She's the AXL admin, and so she may be able to answer questions for you if you have more practical questions about what that looks like. But that's what we're doing for October Creative Night, and I wanna invite you to be a part of it. Come be a part of the Justice Run Music Festival. It's gonna be fun, it'll be crazy, and it'll be our first attempt at part of the vision that God has shown us for AXL. That's the vision, that's what we're doing. Again, I know that there's a lot of you that maybe have been coming and you've never heard that before, you didn't know, you just knew they're creative people. They like to talk about art or something, you know, it's really important that you know the fullness of what's in our heart and what we're going after.